Hello everybody and welcome back to, car shows in general. This is going to be a combination video of all the car shows in the last 3 months because, to be honest, Cars and Coffee is not very good now that you have to pay money for it, and the Lincoln Father Collection didn't have a whole lot new, so I lumped them in one big episode that was originally intended just for Eyes on Design, because I didn't want to have a 5-minute video and then a 15-minute video, so just lumped them all together in one spectacular montage. Is it still a montage of just 20 minutes? Don't know. But we're going to kick it off with the French. These are the Delahaye's, and they are stunning machines. This is going to be sort of a miscellaneous section. We didn't have any particular theme because there weren't enough vehicles. So yeah, in case you couldn't tell, it was French. Delahaye with the grill will definitely give it away. Beautiful cars though. Different other side of the spectrum, the Volvo 850R or Volvo 850 T5R, Estate. Still great. Not quite as good as a Delahaye, but in my own world it's also very cool. Now, the Japanese had a decent showing between all the shows. We had, some Datsuns, some Nissans. The Z Heritage Edition actually fixes a lot that I had wrong with the visual style of the 400Z. Z, not the 400Z. But the POW is much more interesting from a niche, obscure perspective, so the Z Heritage definitely got his parade rained on a bit, considering it's the first one, and that's usually my least interesting vehicle I want to discuss. Then you got a Nissan Laurel twin cam, and it's similar sort of vehicle in the sense that it's a 4-door sleeper sports car. The Skyline R33 sedan, you don't see those very often, and you definitely don't see all three K supercars lined up next to each other. Oh, that just made my heart all warm and fuzzy with seeing the Honda Beat, the Suzuki Cappuccino, and the AutoZam AZ1 in a row. The triplets of K cars. They're wonderful. They're excellent. The AutoZam may have the gull-wing doors. However, it does not have the best doors in Japan. That honor goes to Toyota with the Serra. It may look a lot better than its performance actually gives out, 1.5 liters and all that, but it is probably the most important Japanese car in attendance today because the doors were the inspiration for the McLaren F1's doors. The more you know. Now let's move it on to the Germans, and yes, we are starting out with a Mercedes-AMG 1. I was surprised I didn't see this at Goodwood. But it's here, and it's amazing. It's powered by a detuned 2015 Formula 1 engine, 1.6-liter V6, turbocharged 1,000 horsepower to all four wheels with the hybrid system. It's mental, and I love it to death, but it's not my favorite German car, not by a long shot, because we also have this other AMG, the SL70. Now, the SL70 is powered by the same V12 of a different state of tune that would be used in, the Pagani Zonda, and it was in a luxury 2-door rear-wheel drive front-engine GT car. That is a very cramped engine bay, and it's not the only crazy sleeper car, with the E28 M5 also having supercar power, half the cylinders with a inline 6 from the BMW M1, but it is still a supercar-powered sedan luxury vehicle, and those are always nice to see, especially the old ones with the iconic styling. Not as iconic as the 3-liter CS E9, not quite the CSL, but it's much cleaner than the CSL. There's no crazy wings or body kits, it's just beautiful. And then we have the cars that saved Germany. In the aftermath of World War II, they needed cheap, fuel-efficient transportation. Things like the Gogomobile, things like the BMW Isetta, and things Well, things like this family car, the Zundup Janus. 2-door, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, 14 horsepower, and perfect for your antisocial friends because you seat back-to-back. But it was very popular. Over 6,500 were sold in its time, so hey, they were doing something right. Now, speaking of doing something right, this is one of the early Streamliners, the Concept Roll 8F Type F, I should say. It is a one-of-one with suspension designed by Ferdinand Porsche. Yeah, it's not very often you see a one-of-one, much less that type of one-of-one. Very cool car, maybe one of my favorites in show, but we're going to move on to the British now. We kind of already have, with some oldies, the Exige, the Continental first generation, and a Rolls-Royce Spectre with a very blue interior. Silver is in kind of boring choice, and the blue definitely does not match it. It's distinctive, but it does not match it. I will say that much. Now, this is actually the newest car I've ever seen. It's a 2026 AC GT, sort of a continuation of the AC Cobra for the modern age. I don't know how Tremec got one to the US, but there you go. Personally, if you want to throw back, just buy an old Land Rover Series 1, and you could probably mistake it for a 2014 Defender, depending on how you looked at it. It's that iconic of a shape for good reason. And now it's time for the Italians. Starting out pretty strong, a Euro spec De Tomaso Pantera, so no stupid 5 mpg crash bumpers on it. 5 mile an hour, not mpg. And that means it looks stunning, especially in yellow. Although Lamborghini did try to show him up with the Countach and later the Diablo to really add that extra Italian wedge that the De Tomaso started with. Ferrari also had plenty of vehicles in attendance, some different ones. The 488's nice and all, but you know me, I like the weird stuff like the 456 cars that are often overlooked and forgotten about and not quite as well known as you would think. Now, the SF90 is very famous, is very popular, but it's sort of got overshadowed by the 296. They're both hybrid hypercars, supercars, mid-engine. And then the next Ferrari that I actually liked, I didn't really like the 296 or the SF90, the Ferrari Daytona SP3. Yeah, that's just about one of the best looking cars I've ever seen. In red and white, it is simply stunning. A gorgeous car, an absolute banker for Ferrari. On the other end of the spectrum, the Vespa 400. I didn't know Vespa made a car, much less a convertible with 14 horsepower, 0 to 52 miles an hour in 30 seconds. Yeah. But they're not my favorites. Even though the Vespa's awesome and all, we're going to go to Alfa Romeo for my favorites. No, it's not the ultra streamlined 1948 2500 coupe. It's not even the step-nose Alfa Giulia GTA. And amazingly, it's not even the equally cool Alfa Romeo GTA M wide-body homologation special race car. No, 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 no. My favorite Italian car is, if you know me by now, Lancia. The Flamnia GT is gorgeous. Is it the best Lancia ever made? No. But it's a Lancia, and it's gorgeous, so of course it's going to be my favorite Italian car in show. I mean, look at it. It's very Maserati-ish, but I think it is a little bit cleaner. And now it's time for the Americans, the biggest section by far, because, oh my god, there were so many Americans at these shows. We're in America, so obviously, but there's still different ones. The Lucid Air Sapphire 1200 horsepower of all-wheel drive electric sedan. Then we have the real classics like the Auburns and the Cords. These things are stunning pieces of art. You look at the pinstriping on this, or the Cord L29, and they're just gorgeous boat tails. They even had some monstrous engines like the supercharged straight 8 in this Auburn 851. They're phenomenal cars. Real nightmares to polish. The Duesenberg SJ Phaeton looks horrible to polish, but that just makes it look all the more beautiful. These are some of the best cars ever made, and I am including the King Midget in that statement. Don't think I was just talking about the Duesenberg. The King Midget. They sold over 6,000 of these 6-horsepower little Lego cars, and they are indeed production cars. So there you go. And amazingly, the Crosley actually had more horsepower than that little Lego car, which is surprising because no one's ever said about a Crosley in its life. I mean, they had the audacity to call this the Crosley Super. Look at the size of the engine. I need binoculars to see it. It has like 20 horsepower. It doesn't do 60 miles an hour. And it's so narrow you can fit it through a door. That's actually part of the design, by the way. It's a really cool thing. You should read about it. But they had the audacity to call it the Hot Shot and the Super. I mean, Bitter is better than those. And Bitter is not exactly an iconic car name. I actually really like the CD here. It's much less well known than the DC from earlier. But I think it looks kind of like a L-Cat from Lotus. Looks like a late 70s Lotus, so that's pretty neat. Speaking of pretty neat, the winged beasts of NASCAR, the Plymouth Superbird and the Dodge Charger Daytona side by side. It's always great when you can see one of them, even better when you can see them together. They only made 1,500 of these in total, 500 Daytonas, 1,000 Superbirds. NASCAR homologation specials, and they're some of my favorite muscle cars ever made. Now, Ford didn't have much of an attendance, if I can be honest. It was a pretty lackluster show from them. They had the ASC McLaren. They had this really cool custom Thunderbird with a sort of metal flake paint that reflected yellow on the light. The Golden Bird, which is what it was called. Very cool. Not as cool as the car I did not expect to see at Eyes on Design. A off-road spec diesel configuration Lincoln Continental. For the Mad Max enthusiasts, we got you covered as well. Certainly didn't expect that, but I am not going to complain. GM had all the fun, though. I'm going to be honest. GM had so many vehicles, mainly because of the Lingenfelter collection and then the celebrations from Eyes on Design. So you had things like the Buick Electra 421, or this very rare Fire Am Trans Am Pontiac, or the even rarer one of 3 Trojan Nightmares. That is technically a Pontiac Firebird with a sort of De Tomaso style paint body kit on it. It's very cool, very unsuccessful because, they only made 3. But it does not look like a Firebird at all, and I love that weirdness of the Trojans. I mean, what can I say? The Lingenfelter collection is all about GM. There's a few non-GMs, but it is mainly the General Motors brand, and mainly rare ones, like the one of 200 Monte Carlo SS Aero Coupes for homologation special NASCAR requirements sold in 1986 only, or one of the earliest Chevy Corvette V8s ever from the production spec, right next to the test mule. We'll get to that in a second. And one of the most iconic C2 Corvettes ever, the amazing split window, which immediately takes the value from about $100,000 to $300,000 just by having that little line in the separate window panes. Now, if you thought your C4 ZR1 was too slow, you could take it to Lingenfelter and they would make it even faster. And then we have some rare one-offs like the Eckler and Orlowitz special Corvettes that we see here. This is the wide-body Ecklers, and then later the custom-bodied Orlowitz special. They're not my favorites, if I'm honest. I think the Greenwoods are objectively better. We'll see those in about a second. But things like the Goldstrams and the Orlowitzes just look so different compared to the normal Corvettes that I gotta respect them for having the audacity to change that much of a pretty great car. Those are all based on ZR1s to some extent. And those are not cheap cars to convert. And yet, these are just the tip of the iceberg, because it's time to get to the prototypes. Always one of my favorite sections, because these are one of ones. These are incredibly historically significant cars, like the first Corvette to ever have a V8 in it, that proved that the Corvette should have had a V8 from the get-go and not a terrible little straight six. Now this is a Corvair Super Spider, never put into production, but it nearly did. Independent suspension in all four corners. It's smaller and it looks really aggressive. And GM was not, and Chevrolet was not alone. Pontiac had quite a few, with the Fargo 428 and the Vivenant, which the latter was a passion project by the same guy who built the GTO. It is one of the weirdest Pontiacs I've ever seen. It was not sanctioned by GM at all, and it looks kind of like a flying saucer. So, it's interesting. I won't say it's particularly good looking. Same thing with this Cobra, and then the Mercury Cougar 2 prototype. I won't say they're particularly good looking cars, but I like that they tried them. I think they're interesting and weird and different, and it's a shame that they didn't go into production. Especially the Ghia Via, because in 1989 that would have been truly revolutionary. Would have made the Taurus look like a car from the 30s. It was so advanced. And then we have the truly weird stuff, like the Zoragi concept, which was built in Serbia and based off a 1994 Camaro Z28. There we go. And the Heldo Experimental Coupe, made in 2000, one of only two ever built, and the only coupe ever finished. It's got a mid-engine Northstar V8, 350 horsepower, but since it's 2,200 pounds, it's faster than a Ferrari Enzo. Like, okay, didn't see that coming. They're not particularly beautiful cars, but the fact that that Heldo was faster than an Enzo is mind-boggling. And finally, we have some race cars. So, they're a bit all over the place. A time attack car, a crazy king of the outlaws world, what do you want to call it, dirt track racer with the biggest rear wing I've ever seen. I think it's more of a roof than a rear wing, but still pretty funky. And then there's the little Nassau Corvette Grand Sport, one of only 5 ever built. Ordered by GM to be destroyed, and begrudgingly it survived, being hidden away by multiple people until it was finally saved as a museum piece. Maybe the best Corvette ever made, but I'm a little biased in that. I think it's incredible. Now, I do have to say there were a few, not really replicas, more continuations. Same materials, same building process, same designs, just built today instead of in the 60s. So this is not a true Ferrari 330 P4, or a true Talbot Lago, or a true Ferrari 250 Testarossa, but they are built the same way. So it's not a kit car, it's not a replica, it's just another one, built with permission from the manufacturers. I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't know how to feel about it, because they're beautiful cars, and they are works of art that are actually really well made in terms of their accuracy. But I do have to chip them a little bit for not being authentic. This is authentic. This is an Alfa Romeo Giulietta that competed at Le Mans in 1962 in the GT 1.3 class, and it had clutch failure 23 hours into the race. Talk about bad luck. So there we go. That was the last several months of car shows wrapped up in one video. Eyes on Design was so good this year. I mean, the other shows had some good quality, but not so much quantity. Eyes on Design had quality and quantity to spare. From the Alfa Romeos, to the Lancias, to the concepts, it was truly an incredible experience.